clarify some things for folks in the audience and watching the meeting later, in that as you say that it's the county, this airport is not even within the city's jurisdiction at this point. It is part of the county, and that the county voted to not renew conditional use permit. It was since determined that if they wanted to actually shut the airport down, they would have to do full environmental analysis, and that, I believe, is the crux of the case that's going to the Supreme Court, is whether or not they would have to do that. So the decision coming before the court is a date finite. The overall status of the airport is not necessarily threatened immediately. And the reason why I bring that up is because, as you're aware, and many folks are aware, we are looking at a sphere of influence application with LAFCO, which would bring this airport, in addition to the surrounding lands, at least give Elk Grove an official say. And so I think that, I support the idea of an airport there and the concept of an airport there, but I think it needs to be considered as part of an overall larger planning effort. So I guess we could vote to agendize it, to hear it officially, but I wouldn't want to get on record in its, with its concurrent configuration or anything that locks us into one way or the other going forward. I think what I'd rather do is just, take the good faith effort that we do, at least I do, want to see some form of an airport survive down there. Any other comments? No?
Well, I think there's possibly some type of a win-win situation that could be looked at out in that area. I mean, obviously safety is the #1 concern for the county and the city residents. There's a lot of factors, there's a lot of information that I don't think we have yet to make any final decision on anything. One thing I've always been a big proponent of is getting all the players to the table. I mean, I can see in here there's some representative of landowners that are here. Obviously, we've got a great representation from the Airport Association here tonight. That's something I think we need to sit down with the Airport Association and any of the stakeholders with our staff to just get a better understanding of what options we have now in the future. As Mayor Hume said, right now we don't have any jurisdiction over this area. We don't even know at this point when the final date of the current SOI application and the
Outcome.
One, the outcome, but second is the final boundary. Those are a lot of things that are still to be determined. But again, I think the most important thing is to try to get the stakeholders all at the table, because I don't think it's fair for any one entity to think that they have exclusive say in anything. One of the things I've always been a strong proponent of is anything to do with public safety, and I think that when you look at the CHP, both their their air patrol that they have, you've got fire, and if in this area floods, that's one area I believe that is above the typical flooding that could be used for emergency situations as well. So I definitely would like to see, especially from a safety standpoint, how this can all be tied together as well.
Let me ask a question of staff, either the city manager, city attorney, or assistant city manager. As far as next steps, or obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but what would be the next steps for the county if however the decision comes out from the Supreme Court? I guess what is the immediate potentiality for the airport?
Pat Blacklock, Assistant City Manager. I don't know that the county has indicated to the city, at least, what their next actions would be following that Supreme Court or the potential court decision. And so one option is to wait and see what the outcome is, and then if there's council interest at that time, schedule it for further consideration.
Okay. And I guess the reason why I asked that is to kind of concur with Councilmember Detrick's point. Regardless of what any driving force behind the county's actions are, if they do nothing at this point, I really don't see that as being detrimental one way or the other.
Well, it's difficult for us. We're kind of have our hands tied. We have one member invested a lot of money in a fuel system, and he couldn't get the permitting on it because we don't have our use permit. So, you know, we would like to have these this ability so we could raise revenues to help make improvements. So while we're existing, it's a kind of a struggle. So it makes it difficult.
Yeah, currently, you're kind of in limbo.
Yeah. It's been that way for quite a while.
Okay. Councilmember Davis?
I guess I would just say, obviously, I'm sympathetic to you all and what, you know, your livelihood and interest. But I feel like you're kind of coming here as a way to find a last friend as you are heading towards the Supreme Court. I'm not sure an opinion from this council really will weigh that heavily. We don't have jurisdiction in this matter. So, look, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I'm not sure that it gets at what you're hoping to accomplish. I think that we have to wait and let the due process do its course. I mean, you've got a court date set. Let's see what happens there. And depending on the outcome of that decision, what the Supreme Court says, then I think we've got to figure out whether or not we engage or not.
So what is the harm with writing a letter to the county that says, hey, county, can you hold off on making a decision until the sphere of influence is taken care of? Because at that point, what if they shut us down and then, you know, you have the sphere of influence and then the city wants an airport?
Well, and I guess to Councilmember Davis's point, until or unless that decision comes down, I think the county, and I'm just going out on a limb here, probably doesn't have the funding mechanisms right now to expend any funds to force you to shut down. You know, they have financial woes of their own. So if the decision comes down from the court that, yes, they would have to do a full EIR in order to revoke your use permit, I don't know what the ramifications are as far as further permitting, but I would think that then puts you in a position where you're
Well, I just don't understand what the damage would be for you guys to write that letter. What's the hang up on that?
I think it's more of an issue of protocol, in that for us to act as a witness, so to speak, in the court proceedings isn't necessarily our place. If the decision were to come down, yes, county, all you have to do is revoke their permit and you can shut them down, then at that point, if we were to just assert a little bit of, hey, why don't you hold off and let us consider this as part of our larger planning, you know, I can see that going forward. But I think, is that kind of a correct characterization of where you were going? Is for us to, we don't want to, we're in a situation right now where we are working through an MOU with the county for a whole gamut of issues. And I don't think we want to necessarily overextend our welcome with good faith negotiations with them on an issue that, and again, I can appreciate that you're in a state of limbo and that it's a difficult situation not knowing your future, but, you know, for us, I think what we're in, at least myself, I can only speak for myself. What I'm in a position to tell you is that I see an airport use continuing down there into the future. However, I don't know that it's the correct thing for us to assert ourselves towards the county. Is there any other?
If I may, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
I remember when this fight, so to speak, started years ago, and I was a CSD